people keep asking, why would you do that? Why would you quit smoking weed? It just seemed like time to let it go. It wasn't like, and I don't have to fight to not smoke pot. It's not like that. It just seemed like time to let it go. And I've been doing this Carl Jung thing, right, for like the last 4 years intensively. I keep a dream journal, and your dreams are probably more important than your waking life. At least as important.
Well, you should put on a patch and go to sleep, because that will give you
I've heard about
crazy dreams. Intense.
But when you quit smoking, so I've always had people say that, oh, when you smoke pot, you don't dream. I've always dreamed, and I've always been good. But a lot of people say, oh, it makes you skip your REM sleep or something like that. I don't know, but I didn't. True. Well, I know I didn't. I always dreamt, but when I quit smoking, my dreams are longer. That's all. Like, my dreams are more complex. It seems like I have 4 or 5 dreams in one dream.
Yes.
Right.
And so, and they're all very important. I'll just give you an example of, so I had this dream where I'm in a backyard, and this guy is holding he's got a terrier, and it's a brown terrier, but he's not holding it like this. He's holding it like he's about to let it go. And he goes, there's a rat over in the middle of the yard just sitting there. And I'm like, that's not what rats do. Rats don't just sit in the middle of your backyard in the middle of the day. They would. I go, that's weird. So he puts the dog down, and the dog gets the rat. Where it takes off, right? Because terriers love to get rats. And I run over there, and it turns out that the dog is not killing the rat. He's kind of like playing with it in his mouth. And the rat would play dead sometimes, and then sometimes he would swiggle, and sometimes he would play dead. And I had the thought in my dream that, hey, why is it okay for me to cheer on this dog killing a rat when the rat is a mammal? The rat has imagination. I know this. And probably emotions, just like a dog. And so why is it okay? Why would I hate the rat and like the dog? Because I love dogs.
You ever have a rat infestation? Because I can tell you why.
I know. So, but in my dream, this is what I'm thinking, right? And so the interpretation of that is, for every good trait of your personality you have in your conscious life, there's the opposite in your unconscious or in your shadow, as Jung says. And no one likes to see that part of themselves. And so when you do Carl Jung shadow work, you go into the part of yourselves that you hate. That's why it's in your unconscious. And normally the way you get to experience that part of who you are is you project it onto someone else. So when you hate someone, you're actually hating a part of yourself, that part of yourself that you hate. If you get triggered by someone normally, like the people who hate Trump the most, like Keith Olbermann, Cenk Uygur, it's because they are just like Trump in their unconscious personality. And that's why, and so they project...
Some of them in their conscious personality, actually.
Yes. And so they project that part onto Trump, and it just triggers them like crazy. I was never triggered by Trump. I was more triggered by the system. I got more upset about the system that made people desperate enough to vote for a game show host who didn't really want to be president in the first place.
I was bewildered why they all hung out with him if he was so bad.
So that's it. So that's what I say in my act. They loved him for decades, and then I go into a very funny routine about why they actually hate him. Because they say they hate him. And CNN will tell you they hate Trump because he's a big liar.
I thought it was the 3 W's: women, racism, and
women, racism, and Russia. They tell you if you believe that they hate Donald Trump because he went to Washington and started lying, I've got a vaccine I'd like to sell you. So, in that dream, I realized that, okay, that rat is I have a rat in my unconscious, the equivalent of a rat.
Okay.
But the key is that when that part of your unconscious becomes conscious to you, when you see this dark shadow part that you don't want to see, when you see it, the key is to not judge it, but the key is to accept it. You have to accept that part of you because it's a necessary part of you. because you need it. Just like so.
Can I still look down on others for having that same part of me?
So this is the key. This is the key, Kurt. Because just like how do you grow a rose? You need shit. You need manure to grow. Now, normally manure, I want to flush it down the sewer, but you know it's necessary to grow things. And so that's a metaphor for your unconscious. And so you need that dark part of you. It breeds creativity. And you also, and once you make it conscious and you integrate it into your conscious personality, so now you're aware of the rat part of you, you no longer have to project it onto other people. But when you see it in other people, you don't judge them because you see yourself in them and you love them because you've already accepted yourself, that part of yourself. And that is true spirituality. So instead of hating, you actually end up loving because you see yourself in them. And so that's the gift of doing this work with my unconscious and Carl Jung. And so
you ever do that and then realize that, oh no, it wasn't part of myself, there's actually nobody home here and they were just reflecting back at me?
Yeah.
Like a real psychopath?
Yeah.
That only happened to me a couple times, but don't work on them. You'll start, oh, it's just sort of a part I don't like about myself. Like, oh no, they actually are a different thing to every single person. There's some real changelings out there.
So that's the gift of your unconscious. And so Carl Jung has a famous quote, which I'll butcher. And part of this quote is, enlightenment comes from and making the darkness conscious. And so, and he said, I don't want to become a better person. I want to become a whole person. And so becoming whole is joining your conscious mind with your unconscious shadow. And when you join those together, that's a true religious experience. That's called religious rejoining. And so, for instance, when you fall in love, the same thing happens the other way. So when you fall crazy in love, you know, that kind of thing where you feel like you're energized and you can't, and the whole world looks beautiful to you. You know that feeling. Well, that's because you're projecting, if you're a male, you're projecting that female feminine side that's in your unconscious called the anima, and you're projecting it on another person. I think you just don't understand the Sigma male grind set, Jimmy. And so the key is when that happens, to recognize that that person is reflecting back to you the feminine side of you in your unconscious. You're actually having a religious experience where you're rejoining the unconscious part of yourself that has been split off from your conscious personality, and you're being able to experience it through this other person, through projection. So the key there is to recognize that as projection, and then they say you take it back to your conscious mind, because no one can hold that projection that long. So that's why when you fall in love, you get married, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you changed. They didn't change. Your projection on them has fallen off. And now you see the real person. They didn't change. Your projection fell off. And so the key is to, instead of then just going and reprojecting it on another person, the key is to recognize that and then integrate that into your conscious mind. So you know, and then you're in touch with your feminine side in your conscious mind. And you become more whole instead of split off. And Carl Jung calls it carrying the opposites. So we live in a world of opposites, hot and cold, dark, light, all that stuff. And the key is not to be one or the other. You know what? But to carry them both at the same time. It's very hard to do. No one likes to see the horrible sides of themselves. And so that's why very few people do this work. But it is essential to becoming a whole person. I believe you, but Snoop Dogg's picture, while you're saying it, looks like he's skeptical. He does look skeptical. But anyway, so when I quit smoking pot, it just seemed like time to do it, and I have these much longer dreams that are much more informative. I started having dreams where people who hate me. The most, my haters, the people who make videos about me on the weekly, Cenk Uygur, people like that.
He doesn't hate you.
Even Ryan Grimm
He doesn't.
would show up in my dreams, and when I meet them in my dreams, I have no animosity towards them.
Is Cenk on a horse?
What I can see, is the pain that they're in that causes them to fixate on me, and I then have sympathy for them. And I remember one guy in my dream who's especially, and I could see and some of them, it's all about jealousy. And the one guy who does videos on me on the regular, he was in my dream, and through the whole dream, he kept asking me, "How many pools do you have? How many pools do you have?" Now, I don't have any pools, but he goes, "You have 2, don't you? You have 2 pools." And so, for some reason, in my dream, I go, "No, I only have 1." Like, I wanted him to think I still had 1. But when I wake up, here's the key.
Is there a channel dedicated to exposing how many pools you have?
I bet there is. So when I wake up, that feeling doesn't go away. So what has gone away is the animosity I feel towards them. And so I still have these sympathetic feelings towards them. And it's like it's freeing to me. It takes all that burden of hatred off of me. And so the way I interpret a lot of that is that I got another gift from my unconscious. God is in your unconscious, not external. God is not external. God is internal. And so what I took to mean from that is like, hey, here's the real game that's being played, Jimmy. These guys aren't hating on you. These guys are hurting, and they're fixating on you in a way to soothe temporarily their ego consciousness, and it doesn't work for them. So you don't have to pay attention to them anymore because you only have a finite amount of attention and a finite amount of energy. So now that you know what's really going on, you don't have to pay attention to them. Pay attention to things that matter and helping people and things that are more spiritual, for lack of a better term. And so it's a real gift, and it's a gift from God. It's a gift from my unconscious. Now, I used to be a Sam Harris atheist.
What is that?
An atheist. I used to like Sam Harris. I read his atheist books, and I was like, yes, I cheered them on because I grew up Catholic, and it was more to me like he's good at exposing religion. He's bad at exposing God because anyway. So
all those guys are like that.
Yeah,
every materialist.
They're against. I get why you can be against religion because religion's been bastardized, and it's and you're not supposed to take it literally. Religion is, there's a saying, I think a Buddhist saying, a wise man points his finger towards the moon and the fool mistakes his finger for the moon. And that's what people do with religion. They take religion for God and the ultimate journey of spirituality, which is a mistake. Religion is just a way to get there.
I am a Brian Williams institutionalist.
I'm an
myself.
institutionalist.
I'm a Reformed institutionalism is my church.
So anyway, so if you're wondering why Jimmy quit smoking pot, I wasn't going through a crisis. It wasn't some Herculean exercise of my will to do it. It just seemed to fall away. And I lost the urge to do it. And the only thing that made me want to go back to it was that I have insomnia. And so now I'm constantly fatigued. And I just was in bed just before I got here. And I'm always trying to see if I can grab sleep. And I sleep for like maybe an hour or two at a time. And then I wake up and then I sleep an hour or two at a time. And that's not restorative sleep. So I'm really going through something. I feel physically like shit. But my unconscious seems to be on fire.
It's a good color.
And I thank you. Yeah. So my unconscious feels like this color. But by physically, I don't feel good. But anyway, so that I just thought I'd tell everybody that. And it's the headline of this video will be Snoop Dogg quit smoking pot for reals. Hey, come see us doing a live stand-up show. We'll be in Burbank, California, Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California. Then we're going to Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, and Boston, Massachusetts. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.